We're back, and again, I'm Patrice, and we are at Mona Shores High School. And earlier we were talking to two amazing young women who have started the local chapter of Amnesty International. We spoke with their two aides, and we have Mr. Jeremy Miller and Shannon Conrad. Tell us your role in all this. By the way, it was Loretta Robinson from the Chronicle that told me to speak to this organization. So what is your role in all this?
We are advisors, and it's a student-led organization, so the girls do a lot of the work. This year, we kind of had an agenda and pushed our agenda on them a little bit, but once we talked to them, they were absolutely on board, and they've taken off and they've run with this. They have been the ones to raise the $8,000 by recruiting students and getting kids to be part of the organization.
And Jeremy, tell us, earlier when we were on break, you were talking about a book.
Yes.
And you have the book, by the way?
I do. About 8 months ago, or so, I guess, I was sitting in the media center one day grading essays, and Mrs. Conrad walked in, and she had an excited way about her talking about this book that she read that I had to read. And I was kind of busy with my essay grading and everything else trying to get done for the trimester, and I guess I kind of blew her off, and I didn't really pay attention to what she had to say. She didn't really say much at that point. She just left me alone for a while. I probably didn't speak to her for a while after that. Later on in the year, in the term, I was watching a movie for my world history class, and it's Gandhi. And I've seen the movie Gandhi several times at this point in my life, and it's always had a pretty good effect on me. And this time it had the opposite effect. For some reason, I was very disheartened by what I was watching. And as I got further and further into the film, I realized what the problem was, and it was, I'm a social studies teacher, and I believe that we have the ability to change the fortunes of the world through teaching our kids. And the realization that I had is if Gandhi, one of the most perfect human beings that has been on the planet in the last couple of thousand years, I would suggest, if he couldn't fix things, if he couldn't reconcile the differences that were going on in India 60 years ago, if he couldn't get people to act in a nonviolent way, what are we waiting for? What's going to come along that's going to fix things? And I just became very kind of disappointed with humanity at the time, and I got into a bit of a funk. And so that I'm running this over my mind again and again. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? What guy is going to come along to fix this? And finally it dawned on me after I said it out loud, it's not another man that we're waiting for, it's actually a woman that's going to come and fix it. And it's not a woman, it's going to be women that can fix it. And so I was very excited about this new revelation. I thought I was being very original in my thought, right? Like nobody's had this idea before. Very male of me, I understand.
Yeah,
You're chuckling at me.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so, but again, right, so I'm thinking this and I'm very excited, and that women from a grassroots effort, they're the ones that can make the difference. And I'm sharing this with other teachers in the building, and it's the end of the year, and I think they're tired, and they're, yeah, whatever. And they're kind of blowing me off, and nobody is sharing this passion with me, and I'm saying it, and it's just falling flat. Well, Mrs. Conrad, she's still not speaking to me because I'd blown her off about the book, I guess. And she had been out of town, and she comes back from a conference in Colorado, and she walked into my room, and I was so excited because I knew that she would share my idea. And I said, I figured it out. I know it. I've got the solution. I said, it's not going to be a man that fixes the world. It's going to be women. And she says, yeah. Do you remember the book that I told you about 2 months ago? That's what the book says. And so I was very upset, as you would imagine, because it wasn't my original idea anymore. And I thought that Nicholas Kristof, actually the book is called Half the Sky, and it's by Nicholas Kristof and his wife Cheryl Wood-Dunn, columnist for the New York Times, Pulitzer Prize winning columnist for the New York Times. And the book is about how women are generally discounted in many societies around the world, and their contributions are not they're not what they could be. And so when she gives me the book, she says, yes, you got to read this book. So now, of course, since it's my idea, I'm going to read the book. Okay. And I get into the introduction, and of course, the first thing it says in the introduction is that, yeah, women aren't the problem, women are the solution. And that just really resonated with me. And you get into the book further and further, and you talk about all of these things that the girls were mentioning earlier in the interview. The prostitution, the sex slaves, the human trafficking. So I had read the book now and gotten to the end of the book, and it talks about things that you can do to make a difference, and one of them is to build a school in Cambodia. And so I tracked Mrs. Conrad down and I said, I know what we're going to do next year for our fundraiser for Amnesty International. Yes. And she says, yeah, of course, we're going to build the school. And so again, slow as usual. She's already got it figured out and she's ahead of me. But now I'm on board, I'm very passionate about it. And so we go to the girls and we find them, and this is right at the end of the school year last June. And we said, Maggie and Caitlin, here's what we want to do next year. And I think that they were both a bit, they weren't ready yet because they hadn't read the book, but they had, I think they were a bit intimidated by the scope of the project, the $13,000. That would account for more money than the group has raised in its entire existence when we set out this year to accomplish that goal. So I think they were a bit daunted at first, but as the money has started to come in and they've seen the group rally around the cause and the community really step up with their contributions, I think that they're starting to see that this is going to be a reality.
And you read this book?
Mm-hmm, I have.
Okay. So this serves as an inspiration in a way.
Absolutely does. And I just think as educators, we both just believe that education is going to change the world, and there's not a developed society in the world that isn't educated. And it's the basis of fixing all problems in the world. It ends poverty, it builds up infrastructure, it's going to help their economy. It's really the basis of everything. So building the school takes care of not only social problems, but also economic and political problems as well. So.
Okay. And it says, turning oppression into opportunity for women worldwide. Now, you've been involved with this group for how long?
This is our 4th year.
And you've been it from the start.
We have, yep.
Mrs. Conrad was the advisor for the first year or so, but then she had to leave on maternity leave. And so I filled in when she was gone for a period of time. And then they inspired me to stay on board after she came back and resumed her role.
Okay.
So.
And right, is there anything else you'd like to say? Because we're going to finish up today's show with these two girls, who I'm viewing all of you at this point as heroes, every one of you, especially these two girls that are going to make a difference in you for supporting them and encouraging and inspiring them to do what they're doing.
Well, I think there is one point that it would be good to make, and that is, why are we focusing on Cambodia? Why aren't we focusing on more of a local setting? And one of the things that we talk about with the kids is, and I think Caitlin was alluding to this earlier, but we don't always appreciate the benefits that we have in our society in how education, clean water, basic medical.
We take
food,
it for granted.
We take it for granted. And when you're talking about a place like Cambodia, 43% of the world's population survives on less than $2 a day. And in Cambodia, that number is higher. It's almost 80% of their population lives on less than $2 a day. So what we're really talking about is giving people the ability to take care of themselves at the most basic level.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning, and I'm seeing these girls, they're getting all excited. They've got a few more things they need to tell us. But I need to thank you so much for what you do and for your participation in this group and the inspiration you've obviously been to these girls. So I want to thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.